Good morning, Madeira girls, and happy Friday. You've made it through another week of Mod 6. So before diving into today's material, I wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping first. So first of all, the essays that almost all of you turned in this week, I have finished grading them. I wrote relatively thorough comments in the grade book, but if you want more, please let me know by email or chat. I'd be more than happy to provide more thorough feedback if you're interested. Second, the projects that you also turned in this week. I promise to, and I'm getting this on record, I promise to finish grading them by the end of this weekend. I have already graded many of them. And then as for the corresponding presentations, special shout out to Zelda, Ella, Rachel, and Raphael, who attended our optional meeting. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? I don't know, the days all blend together, but they did wonderful presentations. I know that Chicken and Michelle are going to present at the beginning of our optional meeting on Monday. If anyone else wants to do that, please let me know. I'll be sending an email with more details on the presenting, because of course another option is if you give me permission to distribute your podcast or video just to the rest of the class, then that would count as a presentation. So today you read in the textbook about a famous philosopher and anti-colonial resistor named Frantz Fanon. And Fanon was born in the Caribbean, which was once French occupied. And he then moved to France, where he pursued his education in psychiatry, which is very popular around that time in Europe. And he ended up assisting the Allies in World War II to free France from Nazi control. And then he ended up staying in Europe until he was sent to Algeria to work as a psychiatrist. And there, when he was still in his early 30s, Frantz Fanon witnessed some of the realities of French colonial occupation in Africa, and he started to write about them. So one of his most famous works is called Black Skin, White Masks, where he discusses the inherent racism associated with colonialism. So if you haven't seen or read that book, I read it in college. It's good. And then from the textbook, you read an excerpt of The Wretched of the Earth, which is arguably his most famous book. And the assignment at the end of that textbook page is to answer the analysis questions, which focus around comparing Fanon to Gandhi and Satyagraha, which you learned earlier this mod. So just to review a few key points from the textbook, he actually died at age 36, tragically, of leukemia in 1961. So he really wrote all this and experienced all this in a short frame of time. On the first page of the textbook excerpt, he talks about how settlers view natives. He says that the settler paints the native as the quintessence of evil. So he's drawing a lot on modern psychiatry and philosophy in terms of analyzing how people view each other. And one other point that I'd challenge you to think about while doing the homework is, how does Fanon's background as a psychiatrist influence him in contrast to Gandhi's background as an attorney in terms of how they view the world and how they articulate their views? So, and then another theme to keep in mind on the second page of the textbook reading is, quote, "We today can do everything so long as we do not imitate Europe, so long as we are not obsessed with desire to catch up with Europe. European achievements, European techniques, and European style ought to no longer tempt us to throw in off our balance." So a lot of his philosophy is focused around cultural and ideological relationships to the colonizing power, the Europeans, in this case, the French. So back to Black Skin, White Masks for a second, which was not your reading today. I'm just going to pull out a couple points. All of Fanon's philosophy focused on one of 3 points. The first is ethnopsychiatry, which is the tradition of psychiatry in which he was educated. The second is Eurocentrism, being really critical of how the rest of the world, in his case specifically the Caribbean and especially Africa, were expected to revolve around Europe, and he argues for resisting that. And then third, decolonization, which is going to be a central theme of the next 2 weeks. So keep in mind decolonization and the struggles of resisting colonial endeavors in an increasingly globalized world as we continue with Mod 6. So you only have to submit one answer sheet per accountability buddies group, but in order to do that, you actually do have to work with your accountability buddies. I will know if you don't. So just submit that to me anytime today. And then finally, I wanted to remind you that the reading for Monday is the first 4 chapters of the book, The Dark Child, which was one of the required books for this school year. I know that a few of you do not have it, so I'm going to look into ways to access it online, and I'll send more information about that in an email. But on Monday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are going to have a Teams chat that serves as sort of an informal book club, optional, of course, to discuss those first 4 chapters of the book, The Dark Child. Anyway, have a good weekend, and I'll see many of you on Monday. Happy reading.